Hi, my name's Kurt and welcome to 7 Best Things, a positive look at pop culture. Today we're counting down the 7 most popular Beatles songs on Spotify. Let's go. Starting off our countdown at number 7 is a song written by Paul McCartney with a little help from Johann Sebastian Bach. Number 7, Blackbird. Paul McCartney was inspired to write Blackbird by hearing the call of a bird one morning when the Beatles were in India in February of 1968. Paul has also said that some of the lyrics were inspired by the civil rights movement that was happening at that time in the United States. Lyrics such as, "Take these broken wings and learn to fly," are a powerful message of hope and optimism. To go with the powerful lyrics is a rich and beautiful melody. The inspiration for the melody goes way back. The music is partially based on Bach's Bourrée in E minor. As teenagers, Paul and George tried to learn the Bourrée as a party piece by which they could show off their skills on acoustic guitar. Paul used part of that melody as the opening of Blackbird and developed the song from that point. Paul recorded Blackbird himself at Abbey Road. The entire recording consists of Paul's voice, Paul's guitar, and Paul's foot, which is the tapping you hear during the song. Later sounds of a male blackbird singing were also dubbed into the recording. With inspirational lyrics, a beautiful melody, and a guitar playing that Johann Sebastian Bach would be proud of, Blackbird has become one of the Beatles' most popular songs. Next up at number 6 is the only song not written by one of the Beatles. Number 6, Twist and Shout. Twist and Shout was written by Phil Medley and Burt Russell, and it became a hit for the Isley Brothers in 1962. The Beatles recorded it for their first album, Please Please Me, released in March of '63. This was the last song the Beatles recorded in their marathon 13-hour session for Please Please Me. It was recorded around 10:30 at night. John was sick with a cold and felt that he had nothing left, but he summoned all the energy he could, and in his words, just screamed it out. The result is the greatest single take in rock and roll history. In this single take, George Martin was able to capture the energy and excitement that the Beatles generated, playing live in Hamburg and at the Cavern Club. The backing vocals build up the tension until it explodes. As for John, he gives one of the greatest rock and roll vocal performances of all time. Twist and Shout is one of the most popular Beatles songs of all time. It's a track that shows the sheer joy the Beatles had playing rock and roll. The Beatles never intended to include Twist and Shout as a single. Their rule was that they would only include songs as singles that they had written themselves. And in the UK during the 60s, they held to that rule. But they didn't have any say in what songs were released as singles in the United States. Vee-Jay had the rights to Twist and Shout and released it as a single on their Tolly label in the midst of Beatlemania in February of 1964. At number 5 is a song written to comfort a young man who was going through a difficult time that would become a worldwide number 1 hit. Number 5, Hey Jude. Ever since Beatlemania in 1964, music critics made a career of predicting when this whole Beatles phase in popular music would finally end. In 1964, when the Dave Clark 5 released Glad All Over, critics claimed that the new Beatles had arrived. It didn't work out that way. When the Beatles released Lady Madonna in March of 1968, it was a worldwide hit and a number 1 in the UK. However, it only hit number 4 in the US, leading to speculation that this whole Beatles thing had peaked. The Beatles answered these speculations with one of the best-selling singles of all time, Hey Jude. Hey Jude was originally Hey Jules. John and Cynthia were going through a divorce, and Paul was concerned about their son, Julian. Paul drove out to Cynthia and Julian's home to offer his support and encouragement. On the way, Paul began to sing, "Hey Jules, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better." Jules was changed to Jude, and the rest is music history. Hey Jude was released to the world on August 26, 1968, and it became a worldwide number 1 hit. In America, Hey Jude went to number 1 and stayed there. And stayed there. And stayed there. Hey Jude was number 1 for an astounding 9 weeks. It was the longest run at number 1 for a single in the US until 1977. Billboard magazine ranked Hey Jude as the number 1 single of 1968. At number 4 in our countdown is a song that originally had the title Scrambled Eggs. Number 4, Yesterday. Yesterday was composed by Paul McCartney in his sleep. The melody to Yesterday literally came to Paul McCartney in a dream. Now, the original lyrics were scrambled eggs, oh my baby, how I love your legs. Now, those lyrics were never intended to be the lyrics. They were just placeholder lyrics. Paul and John both thought that the song should have a one-word title, but after months of effort, they couldn't find a suitable title. The words finally came to McCartney when he was vacationing in Portugal in May of '65. Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. For the recording, Paul played acoustic guitar and sang the song, and George Martin recorded a string quartet to add to the record. None of the other Beatles played on Yesterday. Since the song had no other Beatles playing on it, the group, including Paul, opposed the idea of releasing Yesterday as a single in the UK. EMI, of course, respected the wishes of their most popular artist. Capitol said, whatever, and released it as a single anyway. Capitol released it as a single on September 13th, 1965, and it went to number 1, staying there for 4 weeks. In 1976, Yesterday was finally released as a single in the UK, and it became a top 10 hit. 11 years later, and 6 years after the Beatles had broken up. Yesterday became the most covered song of all time, and was listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as such. It's estimated that today Yesterday has over 2,200 cover versions. At number 3 in our countdown, another number 1 song by the Beatles that was inspired by a dream. Number 3, Let It Be. Paul McCartney's mother Mary died when he was 14 years old. During the White Album sessions in 1968, when tensions were on the rise, Paul had a dream in which his mother spoke to him, encouraging him to just let it be. Paul was comforted by that dream and began working on a song about it. The music Paul composed is very much like a hymn. It has a haunting quality that stays with you long after the song is over. The lyrics are profound and comforting. In a world full of stress and uncertainty, sometimes you just need to let it be. Let It Be was released as a single on March 6, 1970, to promote the film and the album of the same name. It reached number 2 on the UK charts and was an even bigger hit in America, where it became the Beatles' 19th number 1 single on the Billboard charts. At number 2 is Ringo Starr's favorite Beatles song. Number 2, Come Together. Come Together is the opening track of the last album the Beatles worked on together, Abbey Road. And it kicks off the album in a powerful way. Paul's incredible bass riff and Ringo's amazing drumming mesh perfectly together. John's vocals are impeccable as always. He sings the lyrics about a man who's, well, let's just say less than pleasant to be around. Hold you in his armchair, you can feel his disease. John Lennon knows how to paint a picture with words. The music is dynamic, but my favorite moments of the song are when the rest of the band stops and it's just John singing to Ringo's drums. One thing I can tell you is you got to be free. An iconic line, words to live by, and the motto for an entire generation. Come Together is a unique Beatles song. It is so far ahead of its time. Come Together was released as a double A-side single, along with Something, in October of 1969. It reached number 4 in the UK and was another number 1 for the Beatles in the United States. In the years since, the song has only grown in stature, and it is, according to a recent interview of Ringo, his very favorite Beatles song. It's the second most popular Beatles song on Spotify, being streamed 634 million times. So what's the most popular Beatles song? Out of the 213 songs the Beatles released between 1962 and 1970, what's number 1? Well, the number 1 song was never released as a single, and it wasn't written by Lennon or McCartney. Number 1, Here Comes the Sun. It's not surprising to me that Here Comes the Sun is the number 1 song, but what is shocking to me is by how much it's number 1. The total number of streams as of August 2023, 1,071,000,000. almost 400 million more than the runner-up come together. It is not only the first Beatles song to reach the 1 billion streams milestone, it is the first song from the 1960s to reach that milestone. The fact that Here Comes the Sun is now the most popular Beatles song, and George's beautiful ballad Something is also in the top 10, proves that there were not just 2 songwriting geniuses in the Beatles, but 3. Put those 3 songwriting geniuses together with a genius drummer named Ringo Starr, and you have a rock group that is unequaled in history. So what makes Here Comes the Sun the most beloved song in the Beatles catalog? I'll be honest, I don't know for sure, but let me share with you some ideas. First of all, the music. Here Comes the Sun is one of the most beautiful melodies ever composed by anyone. Harrison's acoustic guitar is beautiful, his singing is wonderful, and the backing instruments by Paul and Ringo, along with George overdubbing a part on the Moog synthesizer, builds to a satisfying ending, with George's guitar having the last word and the final notes. The lyrics are also beautiful. Harrison is singing about the sun appearing after a long dark winter, melting away the snow and warming the earth. It's a universal theme, and Harrison's words communicate it so perfectly. The theme of Here Comes the Sun is hope. There is a universal need for hope, something Here Comes the Sun provides. Here Comes the Sun might be the most joyful song the Beatles recorded, and I think that's why it stands the test of time. Joy is, in one sense, what the Beatles were all about. Well, that's all I've got. What's your favorite Beatles song? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for joining me, and have a great day.